everyone. Margaret with Raise the Vibration, back with another author interview from our book, Raise the Vibration, a weekly guide for alchemizing the human experience. Today, I've got another author interview, and I'm having you meet the beautiful and talented Ashley Wheeler. So
Hello, Anne
yeah, I can hear
Margaret.
you beautifully. Everything is good.
Awesome.
We were troubleshooting, but we got it. So yay.
We did it. We did
Yeah,
it.
we did it. We did it. Of course we did. Of course we did, right? So just for the people who are watching this live or in replay, I met Ashley at a Tony Robbins event a couple years ago. My very first one, my very first experience with him. And we connected right away and had a long talk about all kinds of things. And thank goodness sat next to each other at that lunch. And the rest, as they say, is history. So first of all, I want you to tell everybody a little bit about yourself. And we were just talking before we started this live today, guys, that was just kind of going over the common theme of all the authors that are saying like so much has changed in the last couple years since everybody has written their stories. And it's just such a fabulous little bit of a grasping of a moment in time from your life. So just share with us, you're coming from Miami right now live. Let us know what you're up to, what you're involved with, and just so the viewers can know a little bit more about you.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. And thanks
Of
again
course.
for having me. This was probably one of the most humbling things in my life to be invited to be part of this
Oh,
and to do the whole story. So lots has changed since I wrote the story. I was in San Francisco and now I'm in Miami, and I've been here for about a year and a half. And it's been a whirlwind. It's been as far as just life changes and my own, I think raising my own vibration, even just in that sense.
yeah, t-shirt.
Yes,
No.
yes, totally. The t-shirt's awesome.
Thanks.
But yeah, it's really been a journey of continuing to find who I am and what is my purpose in this world. And a lot of what I have discovered is really like in alignment with the theme of my book. But I am, as far as what I'm doing here in Miami, it's kind of all related to people. And what I mean by that is I still have my one-on-one mentoring coaching business. It's more of in the spiritual realm, and it's started to incorporate some stuff around plant medicine and guiding people through that on their own path. And then I am also building or continuing to build, I should say, a real estate company with my partner as well down here. So
Amazing.
yeah. And they kind of fall under the theme of what we talk about of a fresh start, meaning that we believe that everybody deserves and desires a fresh start at some point in life, whether it's with job or a new city for me, right? Or new relationship or whatever, or new home, whatever that might be. So that's kind of the theme that has taken the course of my life since we met, is really around a fresh start.
Well, and can you share a little bit about your story, why you wrote this? Because I feel like it'll help give
Yeah.
people a little bit more perspective of the depth of shift in that fresh start for you from when I
Yeah.
met you. Gosh, what was it? Like 2 years ago? It was 2 years ago or 3 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ah, oh my
Three.
gosh.
Yeah.
Wow. When I met you 3 years ago and everything that you were going through and all that you were processing and just kind of being like having one foot here and one foot here and the shores kind of moving apart and
Yeah.
it was that moment that fresh start that we're all faced with many times during our lives where we have a choice to make. So
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
meeting you, even just the little time that we had together, you made such an impression on me, which is why I invited you to be a part of this, because you shared with me your story, and I thought, you know what, that's going to help a lot of people. Whatever you would choose to write about, why this story? Because you've been through so much already in your life, you've overcome so much, and what you chose to do made a huge made a huge new direction in your life.
Yeah. Yeah. So the new direction and the fresh start that I was kind of going through when I first met you was a realization that I had, done it all, so to speak, that society had expected. And yet I was still completely unhappy. And I had a fantastic life and city and job and marriage and everything. And it just didn't feel good. It just felt like there had to be more to life and the way that I was feeling. And so the story that I decided to share was really about a story of resilience and a story of keeping going and knowing that like, I'm not going to get stuck in settling for just good enough when I knew that I felt like my heart was calling for something else, even though I didn't even know what it was at that point. But I just knew the life that I was living was not the one that I was meant to be living. And so I think that just following that sort of nudge that then became more of a push, that then became more of a pull of Ashley, there's something else there for you. And you have to be willing to let go of everything that you thought your life was going to be for the unknown. And that's really where I was at. And I had taken a sabbatical for my, job in cybersecurity at the time. And I was searching for my soul, like, who am I and what am I here to do? And I was in the process of separating from my husband, even though seemingly everything from the outside was great, but there was something missing for me. And we still have a friendship now, but we are not together anymore. So, I think it was just the willingness to continuously move forward, even in the face of fear and even in the face of the unknown. And each part of the story that I shared was various parts of my life where things happened to me, where I didn't allow myself to be paralyzed by the expectations of society or by the view of how I thought my life should be. So it was, I knew that there had to be something else. And that drive, that something else today, now I know, is a deep sense of inner peace and acceptance of what my life has been and who I am. There was a lot of self-judgment, a lot of self-criticism and comparison and not enoughness and not a worthness. And so there's been this continuous evolution of self-acceptance that's happened since then.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. And what I find so inspiring about it's in your story too, but just knowing the personal background and just what you just shared is you knew something wasn't right. We can so easily compromise for almost. And then we don't realize that when we compromise for almost, the difference between almost and right for us is like leagues away, like just almost like dimensions away. I think about before I got married to Anthony and the guys that I was like, oh, I wish, one in particular, I was like, I thought that was going to be it. And realizing that it was so far from what I would eventually receive. But if I didn't let go of it, even though it really looked good on all different levels, that we don't receive unless we're willing to let go when we know something is not right. And that doesn't mean we abandoned ship, right? You didn't just jump ship, right? You went through a whole process, but you said paralyzed. I mean, that's in your title, paralyzed to power, peace, and pleasure. I mean, that's, your theme that week. With this book, or those of you who are just watching this, Ashley has written a book, one of 52 stories in this book called Raise Vibration, a weekly guide for alchemizing the human experience. And so each theme, there are 52 authors, so I thought that can't be an accident, turned it into a weekly guide. And every week has a theme. Your theme is integration. It's integration. It's how do you bring that nudge that you felt. I finally have the book in my hands too. It's so fun to actually have it.
Yay!
Yay!
It's so fun.
Oh my gosh, it's like yay. But how do we listen to the nudges? Because our soul's wisdom, our unconscious, our old wise person inside is always saying, hey, look, this is the way you need to go. And then our ego's like, but I had it all figured out. Like you had so much, like you had like nailed all of the checked all the check boxes and like the ideal life. You had hit it on so many levels. And then there is a deep knowing within you that was like, hey, no, this something is off. And, and so what message do you want the readers to take? Because paralyzed is quite a literal use of that word in your
Mm,
story. And I don't
yeah.
mean literal as everybody's overusing that word, literally, literally, right? So what does that
Literally.
mean? And like, why, tell us a little bit about your story, and then what do you want the viewers to kind of take away from it, or the readers?
Yeah, that's it's a so many paths I can go with the question, but the story itself, as I reread it this morning, was it's a story, like if I look back from a third eye view of like this woman who just craved acceptance and love, but
Mm-hmm.
didn't know how to find it and went everywhere outside of her. And even in this resilience and strength and power that she was able to accomplish so many things. And it was hard, it was challenging, there wasn't a lot of ease.
Yeah.
And it was because she was going against what my heart was calling. And I now talk to my clients and tell them, like, when you feel something, listen from your neck down, listen to your heart, listen to your gut, listen to what that calling is versus what the ego brain that you were speaking to before is trying to
Mm.
tell us to do.
Yeah.
And so it was really like I had no other choice, if I really think about it, because I just knew that I couldn't just sit there and settle and continue to just have this feeling inside of me. It's almost like it was a small leak of energy in a boat, and then the leak became bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until finally I just felt like I can't stay like this anymore. And I
Mm-hmm.
have to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to the ends of the earth almost to figure it out,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
but I was, in a way, I was lucky because I had a great job that gave me the funds to be able to do that, to the coaches, the programs, right? We met at Tony
Mm-hmm.
Robbins, and
Yeah.
I've since gone down the road of so many people. And what I've realized even recently today is
Yeah.
all of that is great in helping us discover who we are, what the walls are, what the stories that we've come up with about what is possible or not possible in our lives. But all of it was this fact that we're trying to heal, to fix, to change something about
Mm-hmm.
our past and about who we are, versus accepting that all that had to happen
Mm.
to bring us to right here. And I know that, some readers might read this and be like, well, traumatic things happen to me. Well, seemingly traumatic things happen to me too. But if I
Mm-hmm.
can look at it from the perspective of what did I learn and who did I become, and did I stay in that place, or did I move forward from that and start to let go of the hardness, the pushing, and
Mm.
allowing instead my life to be pulled in a direction of where my heart is calling and where my interest is, and where, spirit, or you can use universe, God, quantum field, whatever resonates for you, it
Mm-hmm.
starts to pull you in a direction. But in order to do that, we have to, and I had to learn to slow down and to be present with the discomfort, and be present with the things, the choices that I was making that made no sense at the time, but looking back, they did. And
Mm.
so I think it really, that what I want them to come away with is for the readers to decide that what they want, they are worthy of, and to know that if there's something that's desired by them, it's destined for them. And it's about the journey to get there. It's not let the past be the past, but like, it's the journey to get there and being in the present moment. That is probably the biggest thing, is the presence and acceptance, and then allowing it to come into your life and things to happen in ways that you least expect. And I know people say that, but it is true.
It's so
Like,
true.
it is so true. It is so true. If anyone ever
Yeah.
even asked me, would I be on a podcast or on an Instagram, live, and would I have written a book? No, I used to tell people I hate writing.
Yeah.
So
I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
yeah,
You would never
yeah,
guess. You would never
yeah.
guess. I love that what you said too is that, in talking about the past, and we have such an addictive behavior, those of us who are interested in learning more about ourselves and fleshing
Mhm,
things out and processing and moving forward. And there can be such an addiction to bettering yourself.
mhm.
And it can become this very debilitating addiction, where obsession, where you just keep looking at what's wrong and
Yes.
trying to fix and trying to heal. And we'll use creative words too, so it doesn't so bad, sad, so bad as fix, right? Be like, I'm just,
Exactly.
and that's not, I mean, that's a beautiful thing for us to have. We're always going to have addictions as human beings.
Right.
This is the nature of our challenge is being conscious and not letting our unconscious behaviors rule.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
but with this theme of integration for you, how perfect. I mean, with you and looking at your past, you're not trying to fix something or eradicate it or just get over it or bury it, but it's alchemizing. It's bringing the lessons, like you were saying, looking to see where the gold is. That's the alchemizing theme of the book, of course, and
Yeah.
integrating it into yourself now so that you're empowered by whatever you went through. Because all of us, I mean, there is not a single human that can avoid pain or avoid
Right.
victimization, not one. And so many times, whenever we go through our own victimization, we feel like we're the only one, or not the only one, but that it's special
Yeah.
somehow,
Right.
and
Right.
it doesn't mean that we shouldn't give it attention, but if we can recognize that it's not special at all, like every single human being goes through this, then it frames in a very different way for us. So, with even the way you titled this story, paralyzed to power, peace, and pleasure, like you set your compass at peace. Really, like that's what you wanted more than comfort, security, looking good, all the boxes checked and whatnot.
Yeah.
And you said, like, I don't feel like I had a choice at that point. Well, you made your choice to like focus on the compass of peace, and that was priority. And then it just becomes really
Mm.
simple. It's like, when we set our compass to what it is that our soul truly wants, then we don't need to really make any more choices. It's just like, oh, no, that's right, and that's not.
Yes. Yes. I love that analogy, that the compass piece of it is, and it is peace.
Yeah.
The power piece, sure. Pleasure, yes. But since then, pleasure is a fleeting thing, and it can
Hmm.
become an addiction as well.
Yes.
And so, but the inner peace, it just neutralizes everything, everything.
Yeah. Yeah. And something we haven't disclosed about your story yet. We just share like what the paralyzed piece is, the literal part of that paralyzed word.
Yes, yes. So that piece of it was, our bodies are, there's so much consciousness, there's
So
so
much
much
smarter than
wisdom,
we are.
so much. And here I was working in
Yeah.
cybersecurity, working in one of the best companies, making good money. And I knew, I'm driving to work one day and I'm like looking in the mirror, because that's what we women do. Check my,
Yeah. How we
stuff,
doing?
right? How we doing?
Totally.
And all of a sudden I'm like driving and I'm like, I can't blink my left eye. I'm like, couldn't do this, couldn't do it. And then I couldn't, move this, and my mouth wasn't moving, and everything. And I'm like, what is going on? I call my mom. She was an emergency room nurse for
Yeah.
decades. And she's like, well, Ash, you're either having a stroke or you have Bell's palsy. And I'm like, I'm sorry, what?
Yeah. Come
No, no,
again.
no, I'm too young for a stroke. So it turns out it was Bell's palsy. And so the
Yeah.
whole left side of my face was paralyzed for about a month and a half. And that was my body's literal way of telling me, Ashley, pause.
Mm.
You need to pause, you need to stop, because the
Mhm.
life, what you're doing is not working.
Mm.
How you are living, the energy that you are in, and your ways of being are not working. And I paused for a little bit, and thankfully, the paralysis went away for the most
Mm.
part. I haven't noticed anything residual, but it was that moment of like scaring me into, what are you doing, Ashley? Really?
Yeah. We all need the wake up calls. Go ahead.
Yeah. And it was a little bit of a wake up call, but it wasn't enough. I still continued a lot of those ways of being for a while,
Yeah.
until finally I hit that point, and I was like, no more. I can't be paralyzed by the thoughts, the feeling, the meaning I was giving things about who I had to be
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
world, what I had to do, what was expected of me, what made me worthy of love. That was it.
Exactly. How can we be seen and how can we receive love? And
Yeah.
this pleasure piece, because I think pleasure, as you said, it can be fleeting. It's something that we can be pursuing to our detriment and become an
Yeah.
addiction like anything. And I linked your story, everyone's story, with a chakra. And you cycle
Mm,
through the seven chakras 7 times because, 49 and then three more for the 52 weeks of the year. And
mhm.
I paired yours with the second chakra, not just because pleasure, but when we are not listening to that inner child and we're not partnering the inner child with our old wise woman within, or
Yeah.
We miss out on the joy and the fun and the creative pleasure that our lives are meant to be and have
Mm,
that possibility to be. And we do the shoulds, and we check all the boxes, and we live someone else's dream or someone else's projection of who we should be. And our inner child, if we think about a little kid, they're in their own world. There's a freedom there. There is a pleasure
mm,
there of just seeing a bird and just in awe of it, or just like experimenting with something gooey and gross with their fingers, and that is
yeah.
just, they have so much pleasure in that. And so, you know, in connecting with that and you giving this message to the readers, like, you know, something's off. You got to have the courage to not have it all figured out, but just listen to that, bring that inner child back in so he or she can say, you know what, this has not felt right for a while. I've been sitting in the corner with a dunce cap on. Like, bring me back out. I've got wisdom. We don't let him or
Yeah.
her drive the bus of our lives. You know, we don't let them take the wheel. But if they're in the back of the bus, you know, we're not receiving the wisdom. So just beautiful. I can't wait to you get this. I'm sending these out this week because
Oh,
I just
I
got
can't
home to
wait.
my books.
Yay.
But so you'll get it in the mail very soon. But the last thing I wanted just to ask you is that, you know, at the very end of this book, you know,
Mhm.
this started when the lockdown started happening in 2020. I thought, okay, as a teacher, as a community organizer, I thought, how can I help? And I just thought, people are consumed by fear right now. What can they do to
Mm,
focus on their resilience, things that they've already overcome, so that they remember that, you know what, this is going to be tough, but we're going to get through this. Like, because fear can be so debilitating and completely
mm,
crushes our immune system. So I just get people to focus on their resilience and reached out for people telling their story. And through this process, I was connected really with the power of storytelling. And it's something that's an indigenous practice. Before
mm,
we had our paper and pen, before we had our computers, our laptops and texting, like, we were able to share our stories and process trauma and pass down wisdom around a campfire in a circle. All
mhm.
women are integrated all together. And
Yeah.
there's such power in storytelling. And at the end of the book, there are a few pages for the reader to actually author their own story. Because I very much believe, I mean, I have journaling prompts throughout this and exercises for people to integrate the wisdom that you're sharing in your story and the other authors. I want to know if you just share with us, what was the process of writing this story like for you in your own healing process, in your journey, or just where you are at
Mm,
the time, or even looking back at this moment now?
mm. So writing the story at the time was it was really eye-opening because it started for me to see myself in a different light because I was so focused on the things that I was judging myself for, the things that I hadn't done yet or accomplished yet, who I was or what I wasn't. And as I started to reflect on my life and some of these things, I was like, wow, I'm actually pretty resilient. I'm actually pretty powerful. I'm actually proud of myself that I've overcome and lived through these things. And
Mm,
I'm actually a better human. And I know myself more now. I'm kinder to people. I'm kinder to myself.
mm,
And now, and that was just like writing it. It was like almost a therapeutic self-acceptance. And I think that that was probably where this like theme of acceptance started to come from. And now where I am today, and I look back at that and that same sort of process that was kicked off around acceptance, I'm in a much deeper place of acceptance of life and who I am and what my past has been and choices that I've made that I might have judged as good or bad. But at this point, like, I just feel really proud of that woman, really proud. And I say it in a very humble way. You know,
hmm.
I know we women, and I've definitely had the stories of myself, like, don't talk about yourself because you're going
Right,
to seem selfish or
right.
you're going to be this or that. But if I'm not going to be my biggest fan, who else is going to be?
Who's gonna be?
Right?
Who's gonna
And
be?
most people
Yeah.
are so wrapped up in their own lives, and that's okay. So for me, it was like, wow, like I'm actually proud of the woman I'm becoming and revealing. And
Mm,
that's where I am now. And if my story and the vulnerability of some of the stuff that's happened in there, people very close to me don't know some of the things that have happened that I just briefly spoke about there. And that level of vulnerability too is like, if it's a story that can help somebody, like, oh, it just fills me up and makes me feel so good.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, transparency, when we're able to share ourselves, that's so empowering. It's liberating just
Yeah.
to allow your story and process. I mean, when we journal or we do these prompts or anything like that, and we even have in the book, there's this part where every week you write down your celebrations, like your own brags, like
Love it.
to be able to strengthen, especially women, of course, have struggled with this. I've had this a part of my women's circle for 20 years, that we're celebrating parts of ourselves that we don't want to look like we're too much or full of ourselves. And there's a very big difference between owning who you are and radiating and letting that sunlight just pour out of you, and then making it all about you and not lifting other people up. There's a very big difference between those two things. And the more, like, I think of the Marianne Williamson quote, like, the more we allow our light to shine, we give other people permission to step into theirs. And isn't that what we all want, is to help lift each other up and say, there's so many reasons the world is telling us to divide ourselves, but there's so much commonality we share. And to write our stories, it's a process of owning our story, owning who we are, accepting who we are. And I'm so honored that you said yes to this book and
Oh,
writing your
thank
story
you.
and sharing
Thank
it.
you. Yeah.
Absolutely. And just hopping on this live with me now, just so the viewers and the readers of the book can get to know you a little bit more so too. So let us know now just where they can find you on social media or website, anything like that, just so they can connect with you more directly.
Yeah, thank you again.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. So Instagram these days is probably the best way to find me on. I am Ashley Wheeler. So I've had a name change since we wrote this. Back
Yes.
to my name. So Instagram at I
Yep.
am Ashley Wheeler is the best way to connect with me. So thank
And we
you.
did get that name in the book. So
Yay!
yeah, I'm
Thank you.
pretty sure we
Thank
got
you.
everything all. Let me double. Yeah, we all good.
Yep. Yep.
Yep.
Perfect.
So
Perfect.
great.
Thank
So
you.
connect with Ashley. She's so incredible just to be around and to learn from, and has such perspective. And I love you, sister. Thank you so much for
Oh, I love
joining
you
me.
too. Thank
Yeah,
you.
I look forward to
So,
seeing you sometime soon. And if
yes.
anybody is interested in getting the book, it is now for sale. We were on pre-sale for a while, and now we have launched this last Sunday, a week ago, in New York City. We had the big launch party. So go to raisevibration.com to the shop page. You can grab your copy there. It makes an amazing gift too. It's like, we always think like, oh God, what do we get somebody for their birthday? Or it's such a wonderful tool that you can use yourself or you can use with other people, like kind of like an artist way book where you can get together and kind of talk about themes together and share each other's story. I mean, there's such healing in community. So thanks for being in mine, my love. Mwah.
Totally. Thank
I
you.
adore you, everybody. Until next time, keep raising the vibration. Thanks for joining us. Bye.